Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted, Ash Wednesday edition, where two men wearing black walk the fine line between famous and infamy. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's February 18th, 2015.
Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Anglican Unscripted, and clearly you're going to see that we're having technical difficulties. George and I have been playing with this mic for a little while. He sounded like a mosquito for about 10 minutes. It was kind of cool. And you're looking at George's picture and says, George, your screen color is the wrong color. Why don't you have the white screen up, George?
Because I can't find the blackout curtains to do the lighting well.
Yeah.
So I put the white screen up against the window, leaving the green screen in back of me.
It's also Ash Wednesday, and George and I wanted to show up with our ashen crosses from service. Yep.
Oh, Kevin, I think from now on we should do the screens as part of the liturgical colors.
Liturgical colors.
So for our next show, I'm going to have a purple color, a purple screen in back of me for Lent.
That's a good idea, yeah. And so I went to service at 8 a.m. and I got my ashen cross. So that was really cool too. And I came home and took off my sweater and I took off the cross as well. So we're having some technical difficulties. Quick update: we talk about our families quite a bit on the program, and my father is finally getting out of the nursing home. He accidentally swallowed one of those new Cascade little tablets that you throw in the dishwasher, the red, white, and blue ones. Please pray that this doesn't happen to children. He thought it was a candy that Mom left on the counter for him, and Mom says no, she's not trying to poison Dad, that he just picked it up and swallowed it. So he gets out of the hospital Friday, and all should be returned to normal. They're coming out here. We're having 3 graduations here, George, in Connecticut. My daughter graduates as a senior from UConn. My other daughter graduates as a senior from high school, and my son graduates as a senior from middle school. You're like, Kevin, that's great. And no, that's 12 years of college in a row. It was not a lot of good family planning going on there. It was all passion. George, how's Mom? I understand she was in the nursing home as well.
Yeah, she's been in and out of the hospital. This is her 4th visit in the last month. She's had a number of falls. And the doctors have narrowed it down, and she turns out to have the same condition that I had. 2 years ago, I had surgery for cervical spinal stenosis, where my spinal column at the neck, between vertebra C6, 7, and 8, had narrowed to 1/4 of its normal size. And the doctors thought this was trauma-related, that over the years I had injured myself doing various dumb things, and now I was paying the consequences as I reached my late 40s. Well, my mother has the same thing, so they believe it's a genetic either condition or tendency. Now, she in her 70s, she's 72, is now experiencing what I experienced 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going to have surgery, and she doesn't want to do it.
Well, your surgery,
She's a baby.
yeah, your surgery didn't turn out so well. I mean, it took you 2 years. You're still recovering after 2 years.
Yeah, I would say I'm about 75% there.
Mm-hmm.
But this time around, we're taking her up. We have a Mayo Clinic up in Jacksonville, which is a branch of the one in Rochester, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have the University of Florida's orthopedic places. So instead of going and having local doctors in a local hospital do it, because of her age and she has a heart condition as well, we really want to do what's best.
Mm-hmm.
And she's still on the state of Kansas employee health system. So thank you for taxpayers, but you're going to have a huge bill and further put Kansas in the red in the months to come.
On to the news. George and I like to talk about news and politics on Anglican Unscripted, and today's not going to be any different. I think a couple days ago I received an email from Neva Ray Fox. She's the communications director for the Episcopal Church House, and she sent a letter from Presiding Bishop Catherine Jefferts Schori. It was called Wholeness and Health, or Health and Wholeness. And it was a letter addressing the accident that happened in Maryland between Bishop Cook and cyclist Thomas Palermo, where Thomas was killed. Bishop Cook was driving drunk and there was a hit and run. There may be texting involved. You can watch previous episodes if you want to learn more about that. But Catherine Jefferts Schori put out a letter that I thought was pretty sound and reasonable, considering some of the stuff that we've read from her in the past. In fact, if I had received the same letter from any ACNA bishop, I would not have been surprised. It talked about what we need to do as Christians, how God wants us to be whole in Him, how we have to work out, no matter how bad the situation is, to glorify God and all this. And I was a little floored when I received this letter written by Catherine Jefferts Schori, George.
If we look at the letter, this letter is written by someone with a knowledge and love of Jesus Christ our Lord. Mm-hmm. It's mature, it's thoughtful, it speaks to how we are to act when we have both been the aggressor and the victim, how we are to act with love and kindness and charity towards people. Taken at its face, this is a beautiful letter, and it's wonderful, and it's something that the presiding bishop, I think, great praise and honor should be given to her for this work. Which leads to several questions.
Well, let's contrast this with other things we've talked about in her past writings and sermons. We talked in the past about her comparing Bishop Lawrence to a terrorist, George.
Yeah, a year ago, the presiding bishop got up at the Episcopal Church in South Carolina's convention and likened Mark Lawrence to Adam Lanza and ISIS. Mm-hmm. Adam Lanza is not a tenor from 1960s. That's Mario Lanza. Mm-hmm. Adam Lanza is the Connecticut school shooter. Mm-hmm. And Mark Lawrence and the leadership of the Episcopal Diocese of South Carolina were evil on that level. This is out of the presiding bishop's own mouth. And we had so much fun because this was so silly and so over the top and so wrong. It was hard to take her seriously. And the same woman who said that wrote this beautiful pastoral letter.
Yeah.
What is that telling us?
Yeah, I know. It gives me in my simple mind, my brokenness mind, three options. Sometime over the last couple of weeks, she finally came to a loving faith in Jesus Christ, which we have been praying for quite a while, the last 8 years. Or she is blind to, the difference between what's been going on in the wider church, or she's trying to save the Episcopal Church a lot of money. Now, that's just me being a simpleton and looking outside the box of what this letter could really mean, George. What do you think?
Well, let's take the last one first. Mm-hmm. Hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. Is this an act of hypocrisy? Meaning that she doesn't believe a word of this. Mm-hmm. And this was only put out because she thought it would sound nice, it's the right thing to do. And in this particular case, is it going to mitigate civil litigation damages? This case, the death of Thomas Palermo will lead to a wrongful death civil lawsuit. And the Diocese of Maryland and the Episcopal Church is going to get hit big. Mm-hmm. Tens of millions of dollars. It's this... A cynic who would accuse the presiding bishop of hypocrisy would say she's just trying to lower the damages that they're going to have to pay out. I don't think that's the case. No. I really don't. Now, let's say, is she blind? Now, what do we mean by blind? And that here is this person who is lacking of self-awareness. She says she believes what she wrote, but she doesn't apply these same standards to other aspects of her life and work and ministry. Is the person who deposed 700 or so clergy, bishop, from Jack Eicher all the way down to old Bishop Cox, is this the same person whose thought processes are displayed in this letter? And obviously, I don't see that.
No.
So that the love and the compassion and the reconciliation she calls for in one aspect of life, she doesn't apply to other aspects of her life. Now, let's go to the other two. And I would say there's a fourth thing. Is she had a change, and is this truly Catherine Jefferts Schori? And your point is, has she had a conversion experience? Or is the Catherine Jefferts Schori that her close friends and those who've backed her all these years know finally coming forth? Mm-hmm. In other words, has the heavy hands of her bishops and her advisors finally been cast aside, and the real Catherine Jefferts Schori has come out from under the shadows just before the end of her tenure as presiding bishop? Or has she gotten right with God in the past few weeks and found her voice finally?
Well, George and I don't have an answer, but we do pray that it was certainly a Lenten retreat for her, where she is now in the arms of our loving God. We don't know, but we want to encourage her when she does well. This letter was well written. We don't know the intention, and all we can do is speculate, which we did quite well. Now, let's move on to some politics over in the Church of England. I'm sure I'll be talking to Peter about this later, but you were telling me this morning that the Church of England now has the desire to put out voter guides for their parishioners and the public in general. I had not known this because I do pay attention to the Anglican news, but somehow this missed me, George.
Well, I think it's missed you and about 99% of the people in England. The House of Bishops put out a 52-page document basically telling people how to vote. And the bishop said it was a right and a good, a joyful thing always and everywhere to give thanks to the Labour Party for their policies on welfare and the economy and foreign trade and the European Union.
So this was not written by Milton Freeman.
This was written by a sophomore political science major at the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
That's bad.
This is what is so sad. Now, it did get a little play in some of the op-ed pieces where liberal newspapers say, finally, the bishops are seeing the light. After having been out of touch with people for years on gay marriage, they're finally in touch on welfare spending. To the conservative newspapers saying, guys, nobody pays attention to you now. Don't make it worse by becoming a laughingstock. You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to finance and the economics and policy. So there's a little insider buzz on this, but this is a brick that they dropped out of the window and it went thud and it's not moving.
Well, it is thud, and you have to understand there is a limitation with where the church can really step into politics. Jesus himself was not a overtly political guy, and every time he was asked about his opinion on politics, he was giving surprising answers that left people dumbfounded. I remember the one on taxes, and although I don't agree with Jesus about his teaching on taxes because I'm a capitalist, people came up and asked him political questions, and he never gave a political answer. So I certainly see some of the humor going on here in the Church of England, George.
Well, somebody said my kingdom is not of this world. I forget who it was. Somebody, was it Milton Friedman or
Yes.
Jimmy Carter? Somebody like that. I don't remember. Well, I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that when the bishops have been pressed for years to make statements on moral issues, abortion, homosexuality, divorce and remarriage, euthanasia, and they're unable to speak with a unified voice, you get people all over the place, or you get them totally silent, like Justin Welby were. Justin Welby believes that his mission of Archbishop of Canterbury is to be a referee, not to be a teacher of the faith. So in areas where people will listen, the church is silent. Where areas where people don't care, they don't give a fig what the Church of England says about the European Union, the Church of England talks. It's a disconnect between reality and the Church of England's bishops, which will not be the first time that someone has said this.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you for watching episode 160. I can't believe we made it to 160. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And you've been watching episode 160 of Anglican Unscripted.